and welcome to Have a Chat. It's always a pleasure joining you all. I'm your host for today's episode, Judy Loche, joined by my beautiful, dazzling, and bright co-hosts, Audrey Lynch and Veronique Garceau. Welcome, girls. Welcome, everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
afternoon, ladies.
So nice spending time with you virtually. I know it's not easy, but it is fun. And what is also fun is that every week we start off with something enlightening. And Audrey, you have a quote for us this week.
I do, actually. My sister-in-law had sent this to me, I believe it was early last week. And just with everything going on and things like that, I thought it was a great reminder. So this quote says, "You cannot see your reflection in boiling water. Similarly, you cannot see the truth in the state of anger. Only when the water is calm will clarity come." So I thought that was really, really relevant and really good, because things can get so much like boiling water that you cannot see straight, for sure, see clearly, definitely. So, and it's in the calm, right, that those things will come. So hang in there.
Absolutely.
No, it's true. And I was just thinking, though, in disciplining my kids, it was always in the moment. Like they never did anything to really get timeouts. Like they were really good kids. I have to say that. But if they ever did anything that I didn't like, it was, okay, this is what's going to happen right then, right now. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to calm down and come back and revisit that tomorrow. So, but I know the overall meaning of what you're saying is don't fly off the handle before you have time to cool down and actually say and express what you're feeling. Yeah, I've got it.
Definitely.
So, girls, everybody in New Brunswick that's watching and beyond, just so you know, we're in our level 3, which is a step up in the line of restrictions for ourselves during the pandemic. And it's been really not pleasant, because we are like way past the time now where we want to get out and do things publicly and get back to normal. But that's not happening. In fact, the premier, as of last week and until January 31st coming up, has made it impossible for restaurants to be open. They can do takeout. Gyms are down, and they have spas down. And what's really affecting our lovely Audrey here is that she's been a hairstylist for decades, and it's totally put you out of work. So let's start with you, Audrey, and what this whole thing means and has meant to you emotionally and financially.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely is a second blow for salons and spas, gyms and restaurants, which in the grand scheme of things, we're really not the big picture. I honestly, and this is strictly my own opinion, is I feel like we are a select few businesses specific to this level 3 restriction, lockdown, shutdown, whatever it is we're calling it. I myself personally feel that driving around, even just in Miramichi, it's business as usual. From what I can tell myself personally, going to grocery stores and going to the bigger box stores and things like that, I'm not noticing any restriction whatsoever, despite what we've been told and how the lockdown went the first time around. But so unfortunately, I do feel a little more agitated this time around. Not that I don't believe in people's safety and wanting to keep my clients safe and things like that. Financially, it's we're all stressed and we're all worrying, because we do have our association going to bat for us, and they have spoken with government officials on one occasion, I'm sure of, because we just received another letter from our association letting us know that they're in talks with the government and trying to push forward with the mandate as far as letting us do, because we have done everything over and beyond what they've asked us to do. We are very much trained in hygienic policies and germs and things like that with our association, a lot like nursing and in hospitals. We have a level of cleanliness very much like that. So for us, we're finding it very, very difficult to actually swallow that pill as far as the lockdown goes. But, when the dust settles, we're not really sure, because whether or not who's going to be able to stay afloat and who's not. The last time they locked us down for 2 weeks, it turned into 10. So that has everybody stressing out as well. And the funding, though I feel like the government is trying, they're not actually checking with us to find out where the needs actually are and fall. So they have rolled out a number of different funding and stuff like that, but it pertains more to the business owner, which would be me, but not the girls that work. And not that they work for me, because they all share rent. So it is different, right? So they don't qualify. I don't qualify for the small business loan because you had to have so much dollar amount of bills every month that were reoccurring. So I fell below the mark, but I was like, well, isn't that what a small business is? Like but anyway, it gets very frustrating for sure. But I still, God willing, he will get us through that. And I try not to say things that, not that they're wrong, but out of anger and when the water is boiling and things like that, and try to be, wait for the calm to come, and not let those around me and those things that are happening get to us too much. We do have some businesses out there in the salon world who are taking a stand. And they are fighting back, and they've refused to close. The Warehouse Barbershop in Fredericton has received numerous fines, and their doors have been locked, and they do have court dates and things like that. So when that all happened, we actually received another notice from our association that reminded us about them going to bat for us. But at the same time, if we do not follow the rules and regulations that the government has put out, they have the power to suspend or revoke our license if we don't follow along.
It's a real,
I really feel like our rights are, well, it's not like we have any. We can't really have a say or stand up, but we're trying to do it legally the right way. So we'll see where that gets us. But we're hanging in there. I have other ways, like to keep the cash flow going and help with my girls and stuff like that.
And I just want to say really quickly, thank you, Audrey, for being so open and honest about your feelings, because you're speaking on behalf of many, many, many people when you're talking about your issue and as a stylist. And our hearts are with you because it's your bread and butter and you're good at what you've done. And also to all of you out there that are doing it, you have been doing it right and carefully with your masks and your distancing and all of that as much as you can, the same as other people. So, and please support local business. If like even drop off something to the stylist that can't work, or a little gift or something, or buy their product and then they can deliver it to your curbside or something like that. Like there's products.
Gift cards are still gift cards are still available. That works really well for everybody who's self-employed along that way. That goes a long way. Little stuff like that for sure.
Okay, so stay hopeful. Things will, he's saying, the premier, that things will be on track and that we will reopen on the 31st. So that's what we're hoping for, right, Jeremy? Vero, what do you have in the way of maybe going from this downer subject, which we're all feeling the anger like that's come with all of this because we're frustrated now. It's normal. Let's turn it up a little bit to something more positive because that's what we're needing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I have actually a couple of would you rather questions. So I find these fascinating. And I asked one of these questions on Facebook, on my own Facebook the other day. And then I have another one to ask you that's separate from that. But so, So if you had the choice, would you take a blue pill that gave you $10 million tomorrow? Or would you take a red pill that you went back to the age of 6, but with all of the knowledge that you have today?
I would, without doubt, take the red pill.
I want the blue one.
Nice. No, they say that money cannot, that money can't buy you happiness, and I disagree with that. It can buy you a lot of things that you need, and that you can live with, and that it can enhance. It doesn't make you a happy person, like as far as you need love and you need communication, you need connections in your life, you need to have knowledge and all that, but money does make life easier. There is no question. A lot of my friends have struggled financially, and they say it's the worst part of their whole life is struggling and worrying about money. So I can attest to, from their end of it. But I would take the pill that takes me back to 6 years old. I have absolutely, if I died tomorrow, could happen. I have absolutely loved every single part and era of my life. And I'll be 61 in June, and there's nothing, absolutely nothing I would change. I've loved my parents, my family, my friends, my social life, my education, my work, community involvement, all of it. I would not change one thing.
So you would want to go back, because you would remember, you would know everything you know today, but you would go back to the age of 6 to relive life. So, but you wouldn't want to change anything. You just would want to experience it again.
No, I would want to experience it again. And I've learned things the hard way, which we all have. And I've grown from it. And I've enjoyed that, maybe having done something that I wasn't happy with and having to do it over or relearn and move on with what made me a better person. So no, definitely.
And Audrey, you'd take the money, eh?
Well, I'm definitely, just because had you asked me this question in my 20s or my 30s, I'd probably want to go back. But I feel like I've grown a lot in the last 10 years as far as maturity and knowing what I want and having more of a level of confidence and things like that with my business. And the money would just help me pay all my bills. It's not like I would run out and spend it frivolously. Is that right? Did I say that?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. Yep. Okay.
Frivolously.
If I was given the money in my 20s or early 30s, would I have blown it? Most definitely. But that's not where my head is now that I'm going to be turning 55 this year.
We're allowed to talk about age. Age is just a number.
I think taking the money would definitely, I'm at a level where I'm mature enough that I think I could do really well with it and pay off a few bills and, be able to invest it and, teach my kids, the value of money as well.
Yep. Absolutely.
What about you, Vera?
Yeah, I get it.
What about you, Vera?
Blue. I would take the money, but I would take the money, but I would love to go back and relive, refresh in my memory some of those wonderful experiences and get to live them again. Not to change them. I mean, there's been some things that of course I wish I hadn't gone through in my life, but I mean, it brought me to this moment, and my family and my wonderful friends. So there's not a lot I would really, really want to change, but I would love to relive some of those moments because they dull after time. You still know that they were good moments, but that sheer joy that I had in some of those moments, I would love to relive. But I also know that right now, to have $10 million could change. Not my life, because I like my life, but it could allow me to do some other things that I would love to do.
Okay, good.
I would go back to see people that are no longer, see someone that is no longer with us. That if I was going back, that's what I'd want to do.
Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. And I'll ask you one. I'll ask you one other question. It'll be a quick one. Would you rather team up with Wonder Woman or Captain Marvel?
I don't know much about either one of them, Veronique. But
you don't know about Wonder Woman?
Well, I do. I saw the movie. I'm not as much into those things.
Oh, I don't mean the movie.
No, okay. I know who Wonder Woman is. I go with Wonder Woman. And I think we're Wonder Women, all of us women at the time. I think that women are really becoming empowered more every day and making their mark in so many big ways. I just want to say kudos to that little Zara Rutherford from Belgium that did the solo flight around the world at 19 years old. To me, it's unbelievable. She's paving the way, and she's a Wonder Woman. I just want to say that she's a 19-year-old Wonder Woman aspiring to bigger and better things. Yes.
Absolutely.
Audrey?
Yeah. Well, Wonder Woman for me, it was a series for sure. And how that she could wield that gold rope there and lasso the bad guys and things like that. And that outfit that when I think about it now, that must have been quite the risque outfit for back in that day to be allowed to be aired on television. you know,
I know.
but definitely,
Yeah.
you know, empowering women and fighting the bad guys. Wasn't too many of those shows out there back then.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, definitely Wonder Woman for me as well, because she was an icon from the time I was a child. I remember my aunt knit, like hand knit Wonder Woman bracelets and a crown.
That's
you're
so
kidding.
Mm-hmm.
That's right too. That's right too. Those bracelets that she, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
We could relive all that again. You see, we could go back and relive all those beautiful times. I just want to say that we do have, you know, sadness in our lives now, knowing that Meatloaf is no longer with us. He was the legendary rocker that debuted his Better Than Hell album in 1977, and of course, I was in high school. So, you know, he lived to be 74 years old, but he certainly made his mark in the world. He was in a couple of movies, The Fight, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and he brought love and energy to everything he gave. I just want to say how much I loved him and his music, and especially that album. You girls followed him at all when he was alive?
Oh, I knew every word to every song on that album by the time I was 7. In our family, that is, Dad actually wants one of those songs played at his funeral. Like, that is how much he has been a part of my life. And Mom and I went to Toronto to see the play that is based on his music in 2018, and it was absolutely incredible. Yeah, no, he was a huge part of my life growing up.
Yeah. I have too many of his songs are my favorite. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Paradise by the Dashboard Lights. And I'd do anything for love.
Anything for love.
Love it. I know.
Well, we're going to miss
Definitely.
We're going to miss them. Ladies and gentlemen, viewers, everybody watching, don't go far. Grab a snack. We have an amazing, interesting guest coming up that you won't want to miss. So please come back and join Veronique and Audrey and I. Thank you. Hello, and thank you for joining us and coming back. We are so proud to have with us a first-time guest. And actually, he is not a Canadian at all. He is Brian R. King, and he's joining us from DeKalb, Illinois. Thank you so much for coming to us, Brian. He's here to share all about his work. He has obtained a master's in social work and is going to share with us all he knows about neurodiversity empowerment. He coaches women on this. So hello, and thanks for coming to join us.
It's an absolute pleasure. I am thrilled to be here. So thank you so much for having me, all of you.
Well, we know how extremely busy you are just by looking at your biography. But first of all, Brian, tell Audrey, Veronique, myself, and the viewers a little bit about yourself personally.
Well, there's a lot to tell. I'll try and make it as succinct as possible. I grew up with undiagnosed Asperger's, ADHD, and dyslexia. So I struggled all through my education because I grew up back in the 70s and 80s before a lot of these diagnoses even existed. ADHD didn't start emerging as a thing until maybe I was late into my high school. So I just struggled. I was told that I was unmotivated. I was too dreamy. One of my teachers thought I was retarded. That was the word she used.
Oh, my.
Questioned my capability, but it was always on me. It was something I wasn't doing. So here I was wanting to succeed, trying my best. And people around me didn't get that I was trying. I couldn't convince them I was trying. It was always my fault. I was the one that was failing. And you can't help but internalize that and think that you are defective because everybody else is giving you the same message. There really aren't too many people on your side to say, no, maybe it's not him. Maybe there's something we're missing. So imagine that being the entirety of your school experience. And so I had all of that going on. And on top of that, I was a clumsy kid because I had, in addition to that, a inherited connective tissue disorder called Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, which makes my joints very bendy. So I'm like a rubber band. You know, things twist and bend. You see a lot of the contortionists in the circus. They have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and they should not be doing what they're doing. But they make a living doing it, so they do it. So I would trip over my own feet. I couldn't throw a ball straight. Holding a heavy baseball bat was clumsy. My hands were kind of weak. So I wasn't a sporto. I wasn't going out for a little league and doing those things. They didn't want to include me when they were playing catch or shooting baskets or anything else. So I was the odd kid out. I was awkward and I had social difficulties because of the autism and the ADHD. I couldn't play sports because of the Ehlers-Danlos. So I was picked on. I was bullied. I was just seen as the weird kid. So I just kind of sat on the outside looking in. And that was my entire grade school experience. I did find some opportunities to fit in here and there. But for the most part, I found like I was just kind of there to kind of watch everybody else enjoy life.
Oh.
You know, I would find the other awkward kid. Yeah. I found the other awkward kid to be friends with, and we would just kind of talk about life, philosophize, and forget that we were outcasts. We would just be grateful we had somebody else to talk to. And one thing that kept me going through all this, and I still can't explain it, I had this little voice, like my own Jiminy Cricket, that would sit on my shoulder, and whenever I'd feel like giving up, this voice would say, "Keep going, Bri. This is not as good as it gets." And it would compel me to hang in there. And there would also be these people that would show up every now and then. Just maybe it would be the parent of a classmate, or it would be maybe my own mother when she wasn't completely overwhelmed, to just sit me down and give me some one-on-one attention and remind me that I mattered. And just take the time at my pace that I needed and help me feel seen. And in those moments, I would realize, hey, if there's one person willing to be good to me, maybe there's another. Maybe I should just hang in there.
Yes, absolutely. My gosh. You sure did hang in there.
Those are the kind of things that kept me going, finding those special people that saw me. And I began finding my way and finding my contribution once I hit high school. So I loved mimicking. I was raised on TV. My best friends were Bugs Bunny and all of his different pals. And I learned to do voices, and I loved Monty Python humor. So I began picking up accents, and I began repeating my favorite lines and skits. And I found that I could entertain people in the cafeteria. So people began being drawn to me because of my vocal talents and the humor. So I found my social circle because of being the funny guy. What that cost me was getting the emotional support I needed because they always wanted me to be the funny guy. So whenever I was down and I needed some support and someone to talk to, they'd say, "Come on, Bri, this is not you. Cheer up. You know, you're always so positive." So that was problematic.
So can you do a Bugs Bunny real quick? Come on.
Oh, I didn't do Bugs Bunny the voice. I did Bugs Bunny in the fact that I could be sarcastic and mischievous and like that.
Okay.
But
Right.
But I could also be very consoling and be very tender and caring. In fact, one colleague, I think it was back in the 90s, told me that he thought I was a combination of Wayne Dyer and Bugs Bunny. Because when I do my work with people, I can be very consoling and comforting, but when I feel the tension needs to be broken, I can throw a zinger in there. Because I use humor in order to break up the tension and help people have those difficult conversations without overwhelming themselves emotionally.
So, Brian, that's a phenomenal background so far as to your growing up years. Now, Veronique wanted to throw a question at you specifically as to what you're doing today.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I think Brian, so many people that we all know, you know, who grew up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, we can probably see where they would have had the same type struggles, right? And found those ways to adapt and get through as best they could. So, but talk to us a little bit about neurodiversity and what that is specifically so that we can have a better understanding.
Well, there's a couple different terms that people sometimes, there's this word that always trips me up. They conflagrate, they bring them together, they mix them up, so to speak. There's neurodiversity and neurodivergence. Neurodiversity refers to the fact that everybody's brain is different. No, in fact, the term neurodivergence was coined by a sociologist in Australia named Judy Singer, and she herself is in the autism spectrum. She actually invented this term for her PhD thesis back in the 90s. And what she was introducing was the idea that all these differences like ADHD and dyslexia and autism are part of a continuum of variation in the way the brain works, that it's not normal and then everybody else.
Right.
There's this neurodiversity. But then when you're referring to the individual that possesses this difference, you're saying this person has neurodivergence.
Interesting.
Okay.
So that's the difference. The individual has neurodivergence, but neurodiversity refers to the incidence of difference throughout humanity.
Okay.
So it encompasses all the different ways that people's brain works.
Right. And the idea of seeing it that way is if you realize that these are just variations of this thing we call the human mind, why would you discriminate or stigmatize any one of them?
Exactly.
If essentially they're all equal, they're just different.
Most definitely.
Right.
Most definitely. Brian, can you talk to us about how now your health condition specifically with what you're dealing with and how you're managing this?
Well, that takes a lot of creativity because self-care is rule one when you're dealing with a lot of this. And this is something I emphasize to everybody I work with. I say self-care first, because often they will apologize for not being as active in the group or not being able to make a call because they were tired or they didn't feel good or their child needed something or they had to go and chase a dog or whatever it was. And I will just simply reply, self-care first. Because a lot of the people I work with, and all the people I work with are women, and most of them are moms. And they are trained to people please, put everybody else first. And they're trained to work beyond burnout and everything else. So I need to remind them that prioritizing themselves is their first responsibility. So if they need to put self-care first, I champion it, I cheerlead it, I encourage it, and always remind them self-care first. So I revolve everything around my schedule or around my needs. So having to do things or get to do things digitally is a real gift that this day and age provides us. I can do things from my phone. I can do things from my computer. I can do things from my chair or from my bed. I can turn my camera off so that I can talk to people and they can't see me while I'm laying on my pillow. If somebody wants to talk with me and I don't have the strength to talk, but I do have the strength to text, well, we can do a text session instead of a talking session. So there are so many ways to make it flexible. And I can record videos of the questions that come up most often, so I don't have to answer them 50 times. So I can direct people to a video so I don't have to expend that energy. So it allows me to be very present in an evergreen way and give me the extra time I need to do self-care, because my physical condition, I mentioned the Ehlers-Danlos when I was a child, but over time, I didn't know I had it until I was in my early 40s. By then, I had done 10 years of martial arts, most of it joint locking and throws, and I didn't know I shouldn't have been doing that. I did many years of weightlifting and doing injuries because no pain, no gain. Didn't know I shouldn't be doing what I was doing. I was a disco dancer doing the splits and all this fun stuff. Shouldn't have been dancing like that. So I was putting all this wear and tear on my body and getting progressively sorer and sorer to the point of debilitation. And then I finally got the diagnosis and the damage was done. So now I have 24/7 chronic pain. I have to get around with a cane or a wheelchair or something. I've got multiple herniated discs in my back. I'm going to be, I have deteriorating, my entire spine is deteriorating. And this is the reality of my condition. So I've got pain pills, medical marijuana. I'm going to have to start doing pain injections in my back. So I spend probably more time in bed than out of bed these days just to get the pressure off my joints and my back. So I need the flexibility of the technology to be able to provide. But what I've learned just through my mindset work is these are not reasons to give up. These are opportunities to be resourceful.
Right.
Exactly.
Is to find ways to work around and be creative.
Yes, and you certainly are. And like I said, I follow you online, and you have so many people that turn to you, and you're such a support network, Brian. And on that note, I just think it's interesting that you are a neurodiversity coach for empowerment, but why is it just women that you chose to work with?
Well, bottom line is moms are the ones that make the appointments. They're the ones that reach out. They're the ones that bring the kids, and I've been doing this work for 20 years now. And from the get-go, it's been the moms doing it. Occasionally they can drag the dad away from work or whatever else he's doing and bring him in, and he doesn't ask too many questions. He doesn't get too involved. And over the years, guys have complained on my Facebook profile, what about us guys? Us guys need help too. But when you offer it, they don't reciprocate.
Okay.
And they're less likely. Yeah, I find men are less likely to ask for help because it shows a sign of weakness, where a woman would much quicker, we want to know and get an answer and get a solution so that we can keep on going.
And you are willing and eager to apply it. The few guys I've worked with procrastinate and make excuses, and they don't want to look at their emotional stuff. It's like pulling molars out of very pissed off lions sometimes.
Yeah. Love it.
As far as what I need as a clinician and as a person, I want my work to be rewarding. I want to feel like I'm making progress. I don't want to necessarily work with the people that are going to be the hardest to make a difference with.
Okay.
I want to work with people that show up wanting to do the work. And the moms are it. And they work so well together.
Okay.
So when you're trying to change a community, getting people together that are eager to jump in and say, hey, I'm here to help. We're in this together. What can I do for you? And whenever I introduce a new mother or new woman into my community, they immediately embrace the new person. Hey, what do I need to know? Tell me about yourself. Hey, I'm just like that. If there's anything you need, just ask. They're immediately one of the family. Guys don't do that.
Unfortunately, it's true. It's true. The stigma is still there with the way they were brought up, or that it's not manly to ask for help. It's a sign of weakness, all of it. But maybe we can change that bit by bit.
Yeah. Before we're going to go to break, Brian, there just in a couple of seconds there. We want everyone to be in on this conversation. Just before we cut to the commercial, in a one in just a couple of words, how are you feeling right now, right at this moment with your pain?
My pain is less because I'm feeling energized by this conversation. So I'm getting some good chemicals.
Right on. Perfect. So on that note, folks, Brian, Vero, Audrey, we are going to return very, very soon. Don't go away. Lots more to come with Have a Chat. Welcome back. I'm your host for today's show, Judy, and I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts. You've met earlier, perhaps, Audrey Lynch and Veronique Garceau, and our very, very special guest, who is with us all the way from DeKalb. I got that, DeKalb, Illinois. Brian King. He has his master's in social work, and he is really, really interesting. He deals with empowerment, neurodiversity, and works with women largely. So welcome back again for more conversation, Brian.
It's been a blast so far. I'm looking forward to see what we talk about next.
All right.
Well, and you know what? We are so appreciative of you sharing everything that you have so far and everything that's to come. But, right now, I think we as women and just people in general are pouring from an empty cup for the most part. But talk to us a little bit about some of the most pressing issues that you're seeing right now as you're, working with your group sessions and things like that. What are you seeing is really impacting people out there, women particularly?
Well, the inability of setting boundaries. That is something that is an ever-present theme. Giving yourself permission to say no.
Yep.
Because there's that
it's easier said than done, I think.
Yes. Well, yeah, and that's why we call it work. Because there is something, there's something in the Western culture that, and I don't know where it started or who started it, but man, I've got a finger to shake. This belief that we're responsible for each other's emotions. That if somebody else is unhappy, that it's on you. And we hear this from our parents' mouths. Don't make me angry. You know that makes mom angry when you do that. Anybody else hear that nonsense from their parents growing up?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
and sometimes that happens in the classroom too.
Dad. Yeah.
Okay.
But dad.
An authority figure that is emotionally reactive, doesn't know how to regulate their own emotions, doesn't take responsibility for their own stuff. So they project it on you as a kid. You don't know any better.
Right.
So you grow up growing that seed of shame that was planted as a youngster, thinking, Dad's mad, gotta be my fault. It was that one time. So even if Dad's just blowing off steam because he walked through the door mad about something at work, well, I was mad. It was because of me last time. Must be because of me this time too. And all of that builds up over time. And you feel the way to deal with that shame is to people please. Make sure everybody else around you stays happy. Make sure everybody's needs stay taken care of. Because if everybody's happy, then you have permission to feel okay.
Oh, interesting take. Wow. Good answer.
So Brian, if I'm gonna add to that little one before I ask my question, because I know I do it. And so just saying it, or for you to tell me that, okay, start saying no. Do you, in your talks or in your seminars or in the coaching that you do you give these women strategies and coping skills and talk them through what that actually means, what that actually looks like or sounds like to actually physically do that?
I immerse them in strategies.
Okay.
I talk to these women 2 hours a week and give them endless access to me I use Discord as a platform. It's a chat room. And they can ask me questions 24/7 because I realize this is not like flipping a switch. We're doing a lot of deconstruction of patriarchal conditioning. And one of the main things that these women need to learn how to do is to begin doing nice, non-judgmental things for themselves. Taking those moments to enjoy a cup of tea without guilt is sometimes a big stepping off point for them. Because they're so used to eating on the fly, going through the drive-through, having a sandwich in one hand and taking care of a kid in another. So doing one simple act of self-care and nothing else
Right.
Is usually
no,
a place where we start.
definitely. I'm an employer. I have people working. I'm a wife and I'm a mother. So I feel like that's something I've done for almost 34 years now. And I just can't imagine just turning that off and being able to do, not necessarily not do those things for them is not what you're saying. It's to do something for me that doesn't involve pleasing anybody else at the same time. I love it. I love it.
And another layer of that is when we introduce ourselves, we tend to introduce ourselves according to our roles. How we produce,
we do.
How we produce for the world, because our productivity is the measure of our worth, not simply our being. So if you were to describe yourself according to simply what you stand for, what are your values, how would you introduce yourself?
Interesting enough. Hi, I'm Jansen's mom.
I think I was somebody's mom for a good 18 years, for sure.
And your identity is by virtue of that person. As opposed to, well, you know what? I really enjoy volunteering and helping elderly people. I really enjoy, I really enjoy gardening. I really enjoy the mindfulness of it. I enjoy certain experiences, certain things that I do. You describe the way you like showing up. And then one question I have is, when's the last time you showed up like that for yourself? That you're just present with you. What'd you do, Judy?
Last night, I talked to you about this, Brian. I won't take up your time or the girls or the viewers. I just did a whole lot of an hour wind down, me time, soft music time, lit a candle, put some lavender on my wrists. I decompressed. I did my breathing. I did my praying, my meditation, and I did that for a full hour, and it helped me sleep. And I took a little melatonin too.
Yeah, tune in how you're feeling, what you need, and you did what you needed to do to change how you were feeling more towards what you wanted to be feeling.
Okay. Well,
and you did that in a more tender, compassionate way. You weren't finishing off your day with half a bottle of wine so you could force yourself into that state. Okay?
No, that's tonight.
Okay, so that's a no-no?
Okay, I didn't hear that. La, 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 la.
I'm like, wait a minute.
I'm joking. I don't drink hardly at all, ever. No. Okay, I'll do a question for this fun.
Yes, I do, Brian.
Has their own way of doing things.
Yeah. Can you tell us more about neurodiversity and how it relates to autism specifically? Now, my oldest child, similar to you when he was younger, went through the line of, he has ADD, he has ADHD, and now then it went to autism, and now they're saying that there's other things that might be taking, So how does this neurodiversity and how does it relate to autism specifically?
Well, that's interesting that you bring that up because there's some argument within the community. Because historically, the autism community was broken in two. You used to have Asperger's and then classic autism. And I think a bunch of years ago, I think maybe 5 or 6 years ago, the DSM-4, the Diagnostic Statistics Manual, that's the guidebook the psychiatrists in the U.S. use to diagnose folks. They decided to take Asperger's out and wrap it into the larger autism spectrum. So in the neurodiversity community, Asperger's folks, which are more folks like me, which are quirky, eccentric, but aren't as debilitated as people with classic autism. People with classic autism may not have mastered toileting, may be nonverbal, may have bigger meltdowns. And in the neurodiverse world, a lot of the people, including Judy Singer, who are advocating for more inclusion, more acceptance, are more likely to be people on the Asperger's end of things, who are not.
Well, that's just it.
Right. They're not going to need all of these accommodations. They're not going to need to be in group homes for the rest of their lives. So while we're saying you need to include us, you need to treat us like normal, there's this other end of the spectrum where you need to take these high needs into consideration. You need to advocate for bigger needs. So there's a lot of apples and oranges type of things happening here, where it's not just as easy as accept us all.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, there are some people that have slight cerebral palsy, and then there are people that are absolutely debilitated by it. So when you talk about things that are on a continuum, there are outliers. And when in the conversation of neurodiversity, the outliers are often missed. And then we don't know how to talk about the outliers.
I feel like in Canada, what I've heard the word is used more like he's on the spectrum. You fall under the umbrella of, right? Or you're on the spectrum. And my son Brody's always been considered to be high functioning. He's verbal. He's, you know, he can groom himself. He can feed himself, things like that. So to me, everything I've read, is that true autism, or is that more Asperger's when you see all of the other things that are socially wrong with the quirkiness and all of the other things that go along with it, and not being socially acceptable with some of his quirkiness and things like that. So, you know, that definitely does make a difference, and you have to take that into consideration.
So when you say, and that's one of the problems of lumping it all together, you can say, well, I want my child with autism to be accepted and included, but what it takes to include me is not the same as what it takes to include someone who is nonverbal and hits and bites and does all kinds of other things. So it's a completely different ask.
Right.
So when you say, where does autism fit or where does ADHD fit? There's not one answer to that.
No.
You know, it's very, very complicated.
Yeah. Brian, I don't know how much we have for time, but I just wanted to talk to you. One of the themes you come up with in your group is how to break the hold that narcissistic parents might have on you. Could you touch on that, please?
Well, in addition to parents, spouses. Because if you have a narcissistic parent, chances are you're going to marry one. And I see a lot of the women coming into the group with that issue. They have a narcissistic spouse, and they first thought, well, my husband's just not helping out, or my wife is not doing their share. And then as we unpack it in the group, they realize, holy cow, I'm married to a narcissist. And then come to think of it, my dad was just like that, or my mom was just like that. And it comes back to the shame component. This belief that it was my job to take care of this person. And the way it manifests with their child is they rescue, they save, they prevent that child from having experiences that could help them be much more resilient, help them learn to regulate their own emotions, because they were taught their job is to make this person happy, prevent them from being hurt and angry, otherwise it's their fault. So it begins with teaching them the fact that they were lied to. They were done an injustice by an adult that was selfish and took advantage of their innocence by getting them to buy into this lie that they were responsible. And then we give them permission to start thinking about having their own needs met. We start with something small. You know, is there something you need to share? Is there something, a win you're proud of that we can celebrate with you? Is there a concern you have that you would like to share so we can support you? And then there's a process that I developed called the BRAVE process. And it starts by learning to witness the emotion that's coming up and naming it and being with it and allowing it and not seeing it as a threat. Then when you can become more at home with it, then we move on to some bigger emotions. Because the more you can sit with them and be okay with them and be supported in them, the safer they become. And then you can begin experiencing the full range of your emotions and becoming more vulnerable. All those things that you were denied by the narcissist. And you're in a community of people that are going to hold that opportunity sacred. People are not going to be telling you, don't feel like that. This is how you should feel. None of that happens in my inner circle. It's a very, very safe space. So they can take those emotional risks. And once they discover it's okay and they can blossom like a flower, then the hold of the narcissist starts going away because there's nobody to challenge their right to feel their own feelings and meet their own needs. And it's just beautiful to watch it all unfold.
Well, I love listening to it. I mean, your group sounds just fantastic. And too bad that you're so far away over there in the United States, in Illinois. We'd love to have you here in our Miramichi community.
No, I've got clients. I've got clients from Europe. I've had clients from Australia. That's the beauty of it being digital. I've got clients from the entire world.
Oh, so you don't just meet. You don't just, I thought you met pre-COVID and like in these sessions day after day, but you can actually go online and sign up. Okay, good to know.
Yeah, this is all digital. We don't meet in person.
Okay, that's fantastic. Now, Brian, I was going to go right to another question, but Veronique, maybe before we exit, you have one quick little question. We have 2 minutes left.
I do. And I just want to touch on, and it's something that I know that we connected on off screen, but Gerard and Judy both here have been so instrumental. They're building a brand new hospice for us here. And just in the last couple of minutes, I know that you've done some work in that area. And why is that such a critical piece to a community like ours and the work that you've done?
Well, my first job out of grad school was working for hospice. And I did it for 4 or 5 years. And to this day is one of the best things I ever did. And one thing that really touched me about it is such a vulnerable time for people. And it's one of the biggest fears that we all have. And we just lost Betty White recently. And something that she shared prior to her passing that really stuck out for me is she says her mother told her not to fear death because it's that one secret that none of us knows is what's on the other side. What's the secret? And she says, when we die, we get to know what that secret is. And when people are preparing to know what that secret is, the person that's passing, they get that. But the people that are left behind, the secret they get to find out is just how able they are to go on. Because a lot of people, the survivors, don't think they can do it without the person. But what they don't realize is that they can. And part of the blessing, the honor they give to the person that just passed, is showing them that the strength of that memory and the love they take with them is what helps them go on. That's part of the legacy of the person that they just passed. And that's something that you can teach them.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Well, and
you're a beautiful soul.
It's such a gift, it's such a gift that Gerard and Judy are giving to our community in building this hospice, a state-of-the-art hospice where they can have those final moments, surrounded by loved ones and in the best of care. So thank you so much for sharing your perspective from that as well.
And for our viewers, thank you all for being with us. Have a wonderful week and stay safe. God bless.